Hey, beautiful people, this is me, Yelli Talk, coming at you with another beautiful message. Now, we are in the wee mornings of the hour, so I needed to come through and talk about, some things. But first, right before we get into this, I know you're taking care of your minds, your hearts, and your entire being, okay? Now, if you have not come through over onto my Patreon, I strongly invite you to come through. You might be shocked by the amount of information that you find on my Patreon because, again, I feel that Patreon is the safest place for me to post content without people taking my stuff and creating pages with my face on their profiles and promoting and stealing away clients. So I'd rather have a Patreon. And even as I say that, I've been unfortunately frauded by some individuals who have gotten access to some form of content that I did put out there. And so I just want to make sure that I'm doing this right this time. So if you are interested, hop on over to my Patreon so you can have access to my exclusive, type of information that I do give. So I split it in three types of categories. So you got Yelli Talk, which is when I sit around and I share some form of information with you, some form of download. I do got Yelli Creations, where I share beautiful processes of the type of art that I do, whether it's creations in the kitchen, whether it's creations with painting, whether it's creations through poetry, whether it's creations through music. And there's Yelli Connects, right? Where I do tarot reading, where I share download messages that I do receive, okay? So I strongly invite you over just so that you can, see what it's all about. And if you feel like it's not for you, then, you can just hop off. It's just $8.88 a month. It wouldn't cost you an arm and a leg, right? It would be a wise investment, in my opinion. So that being said, I do want to talk about a topic today, which is, I've been hearing a lot about, so clearly tonight is about Yelli Talk, and the topic of tonight is entrepreneurship, okay? And how we've been waving the flag of starting our own businesses and how it's the new way of doing things, right? And how, it works for many, many people who have brilliant ideas, who are coming out in the open and who are just doing these amazing businesses that we should all support. We should all try and support individuals in our local communities, or even on an international level if we can, just by, supporting them however we can, whether it's energetically through a form of prayer or meditation. We can support them if it's, money-wise, monetary-wise, or just, a thumbs up or a nice word of, I like your piece of work, or thank you for this message. It just doesn't cost anything. It's just free, right? So that being said, the reason why I feel called to do this message, so I'm not going to do a very long message over here. So the way I like to do it is I like to entice you, first of all, so that you get the gist of what I'll be talking about in more details in my Yelli Talk full version that will be available for my Patreon family. Okay. Now, why am I talking about entrepreneurship? Because I feel like it has become a word, and it is more a word that we will be hearing in a future, whether it's a near future, whether it's right now, or whether it's in the way long-term future. Okay. The reason why I feel like, it has been, let me just fix out this light. I feel, oh, hold on. Oh, okay, now it's better. Yeah, I just wanted to neutralize it a little bit, get the good light, so that it give me the good shade. No, I'm just kidding. So all this to say, I feel like entrepreneurship is a term that is going to be used more and more, but I feel that it has become a word that has been used, I want to say, to proclaim some form of liberation. Okay. So I don't know if you've followed the civil movements, the civil right movements. I want to say evolution, right? It transitioned. It went from the civil rights, trying to get, I want to say fair rights for all citizens across the globe, right? We've been all fighting for our rights at some time during the 60s and 70s. And then we moved into a wave of, well, now let's fight for the undeserving. So we had the wave of feminism, and now it evolved into, let's fight for more than just feminism. Let's fight for everybody's right and everybody's differences. So that includes, the LGBTQ community. It includes non-able or disabled communities. I mean, it just gathers and it says that it encompasses, right? That, it has evolved in that it encompasses all types of rights for all types of people, because we're all different. We're all unique in our own ways. And I feel that it's just right that we get to that. And now I feel like it has evolved even a layer further into entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship is, which I find that it has been defined, whether it has been clearly defined or not, it has become a form of making a living by doing something that you are passionate about. Okay. And that can translate into, being very inclusive for everybody to support, and for every types of services and products to be, catered in our local and on our local community, or on our local scale, as well as on the international scale. Okay. Now follow me here. The reason why I'm talking about entrepreneurship is that I feel like we are missing something between fighting for our rights and then becoming self-employed or becoming entrepreneurs. I feel like there is a missing gap for most people that start businesses, and that is identifying how are you an entrepreneur of your own life, right? Because yes, you can quit your 9-to-5 job. Yes, you can start your new endeavors by becoming self-employed. But I feel that, and I speak for myself as I'm talking to you right now, I feel that there is a bridge that needs to be that there's a gap in between being self-employed and being fully into your passions and doing what you love to do, right? And that is taking the word entrepreneurship and trying to own it, but also try to I want to say incorporate it, or try to integrate it with your lifestyle. Okay? Because I feel, and this is where it gets a little tricky, because I feel that we miss the point. When we become self-employed, we do not actually get more liberated. It's actually the other way around. We get more responsible. We need to get more organized. We need to, evaluate the type of services or products we're going to be offered, the types of hours that we want to put out there, right? We don't want to be available 24/7. So I feel like when we are stepping in this world of being self-employed, we need to identify the type of lifestyle we want to be living, or we want to be realizing our dreams and passions. And because it's one thing being self-employed, but it's another if you're being self-employed, but you're going after your dreams and trying to live out your dreams and your passions. But if you have not figured out how would that lifestyle translate into your actual reality, you might then hit a wall. You might then hit a wall, because I feel like there's this gap. There's this gap between living off of your passions and your dreams and becoming an actual self-employed legit business, right? I feel like there's a gap, and that gap is identifying how are you, first of all, an entrepreneurship in your everyday life, right? How are you organized? What are your routine, right? Your wake up routine, your night routine, what time you go to sleep, right? What are your daily habits? Your eating habits, your leisure time. How do you balance the both? If you have family, or if you have fur babies, or if you have any type of responsibility towards another individual, or even a community, if you do volunteering work, how do you get to be the entrepreneurship, or how do you get to manage your whole life without actually making the switch to being self-employed? And I feel that many people don't do that. I being the first one to raise up my hand. I used to work for the federal government in Canada, and I stopped working for that government. And the reason why is because, first of all, I did not adhere to their whole policy of forced vaccination, and I also wanted to keep my job because I was well paid, but I felt like I needed to fight for my rights of freedom of choosing whether or not I wanted to get vaccinated or not. And so I felt hindered in my rights, and that's why I stopped working for that beautiful entity. But that being said, when I stopped working, there were a lot of things that I needed to reconsider, because I'm a mom. I have 3 children, and living off of my dreams and my passions is one thing, and then putting them into reality, and then calling myself self-employed, and having my taxes number, and then having all the accountant work being done behind, and the whole structure of a business plan. I know it can sound a lot. It can be a lot as well, right? So that is going to be the topic of tonight. If you feel like it could be something that speaks to your soul or speaks to your heart, then hopping over to my Patreon family, and we're going to discuss more and more about this topic, because I feel like we are stepping in this space in time, and in this future time, where everybody's going to be self-employed. Yes, everybody's going to come up with their own passions, their own services, their own contribution of being the change that they want to be for tomorrow, right? And everybody's going to have the chance and the opportunity to showcase that in a very different way. I feel that, the institutions that we know of today, the big banks and the big corporations that we know of today, in maybe 50 to 100 years, might no longer be what we know of today. It might be history. We might find references in history books. So, people might say I'm crazy, but I know what I'm talking about. Like, we are breaking off of that big globalization dream and idealization that we've been in for the last 50 years, because we are now coming to the conclusion that was just, a smokes and mirror narrative to keep us under the poverty line or the lack mentality line, so that, the richer can get richer and the poorer gets poorer. But we are making a leap. I feel that we are jumping timelines, and we're jumping timelines where people are calling back the power, they're calling back their sovereignty over themselves, starting with, how they're gonna, how are they gonna make it at the end of the month for themselves and their family? How are they gonna, be sovereign beings where they feel that the rights are not being, ignored, right? We're going to reclaim back our sovereignty over the types of habits that we feel fits our identity and our personality and our character and our soul and our being, right? We're going to reclaim back powers over so many things that we can project ourselves into the breakdown of this world that we see. And I feel that the breakdown is gonna break into many small communities of like-minded people who are going to create something beautiful. But I feel like, it's going to be done on it's going to be kind of like, I want to say, it's going to be done, but slowly. Okay. It's going to take time. It's not going to be done all of a sudden. And so I feel like for many of us who are stepping into being self-employed and being the change that we want to see, and, trying to offer different services and different talents and different passions and different arts, we are coming in with some newness, right? And we want to live off of our passions. We want to live off of our art. We want to live off of our dreams. We want to live off of our gifts that were bestowed upon us by the Most High, right? We all want to do that. And if you don't want to do that, it's fine with you. But if you do want to do that, I do strongly invite you over to my Patreon so we can finish this discussion. Okay. So I'm going to end it here. Thank you for coming through. This is Yelli Masa. Take care of your minds, your hearts, and your entire being. And until then, thank you for your support, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.